first thing I'm going to say, just to everyone watching or listening to this around the world, I want to say a big thank you for tuning in today and a big thank you for taking time out of your day to join us today. This is episode 524 of the Simply Inspired podcast, and today I'm joined by a very, very special guest. I'm joined by Fabian Salazar. Now, hopefully, I'm saying that the right way. Am I pronouncing your name the correct way, my friend? Or am I?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, good, good, good.
Correct.
Okay, I spend more time practicing names than I do preparing questions. But all I'm going to say, real quick for everyone listening to this guy today has an incredibly inspirational story. Everything with military service, professional fighting. He's a champion. He is an all around inspirational individual. And as always with my interviews, we're going to go a little bit deeper, even though we will be talking about the fighting aspect. We're going to be talking about recovery from trauma. We're going to be talking about faith. We're going to be talking about mental resilience. All types of subjects, really, that help you guys listening to this because that's why we are creating this today. And I also, I'm just going to put this on the record as well. Really, really grateful to my man Fabian for doing this 7 a.m. Las Vegas time, and over here it's in Cyprus, it's 5 p.m. So it's a big time difference there. And he's accommodated this 7 a.m. I can see the morning coffee flowing there. I think that's the morning coffee.
Yeah.
So, 100%. But I appreciate that, my friend, and it's great to be talking with you.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. So, okay, we will talk about a few different things. As I mentioned, I'm going to kick something off with the combat sports, with the professional fighting aspect. I've seen, different fights of yours, and we were talking about this before I started the recording, that I sort of took an in-depth look into your fighting career when I interviewed Vern Earwood. Big shout out to him. But I'm pretty sure I've seen you fight before that. And I don't actually know the answer to this. How many fights have you had altogether, professional, amateur, different styles? I mean, I know you've done MMA, you've done bare knuckle, you've done boxing. I mean, you've done a whole different type of thing. So how many are we talking about there, my friend? Just to kick things off with a bang.
Amateur MMA. I've got about 15 fights in total. I have about 3 amateur kickboxing matches, and I have about 4 amateur boxing matches. And then professionally, so far, just 1 pro MMA and 2 pro bare knuckles. So I mean, well, roughly 30, just about 30 total fights, and that's not including street fights. It's a whole different number.
I bet it is. I bet it is. That makes sense. That makes sense because I've seen you with MMA, I've seen you with the bare knuckle, and that fits it together for me because I'd seen when I was researching for this, getting everything ready. I'd seen the boxing as well, so it's good. And you've got a title with Sparta as well, though, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
didn't mention that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Well, that kicks things off with a bang because anyone hearing about you for the first time, they know what's up, and they know a little bit about what's going on. But before we get into the fighting, full swing and all of that side of things, I want to actually go back into something else, back in time a little bit, because being a veteran and, serving your country and everything that you've been through with there, I'd like to go back into sort of your earlier years and talk a little bit about like joining the military, maybe if you did any sports growing up. Really, this isn't like a really narrow question. The reason I'm asking this, my friend, is to get a feel for your mindset because you obviously have a lot of mental resilience and mental toughness as well as physical toughness to achieve everything you've achieved in your life. And I think if we speak on your upbringing a little bit, that might give us a clue as to where that mental toughness came from, if it was something you were born with, if it was something you cultivated and sort of built up like a muscle. If you get where I'm going with this, can we talk about that a little bit, please? Thank you.
Yeah. So growing up, the only sport that I ever really did, I actually played like for the school for was for football. Um, and I was so small, so skinny then. I used to play wide receiver and cornerback. I think I Oh, and I wrestled as well. I wrestled in middle school as well, but it was more for federation wrestling. Um, I used to wrestle at 115, believe it or not. At one point, that's how small I was in high school. I graduated high school like at 160 pounds. Um, I would say my mental resiliency, though, didn't come from that. It came from my stepdad. Uh, I credit my stepdad for almost everything positive in my life. Obviously, growing up in high school, by the time I was a freshman year, I just said F it, and I went down a different trajectory and started messing up, failing school, ditching school, um, trying to be a little wannabe gangbanger, and thought I was hard, and getting into numerous fights all the time. Fist fights, so I'd always get suspended. And when I got suspended, it was never a, you know, hey, you get sent home for 2 weeks. I'd have to go to work with my dad for 2 weeks. So, you know, that mental resiliency, that relationship and that mental resiliency was being built up then, and I didn't know it then. You know, um, I always say that the best thing that my mom ever did for me was marrying my stepdad. My real dad passed away from cancer before I was 3 years old. And so the greatest thing my mom ever did for me was finding my stepdad and marrying my stepdad. And over the years, he set all those things in place to get me to where I'm at now. And I'm forever grateful. And I love my dad for that. There's no question on who my dad is. And that's no disrespect to my real dad. The fact of the matter is, he passed away, and that's unfortunate. And I do have an unconditional love for my stepdad, for my dad, my real father. But my stepdad is my dad, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts or questions about it on the man who I call dad.
That's a very inspirational and I've got to say, actually quite moving story straight away. And I'm going to say something else here as well. By the way, everything that I sort of bring up, every topic that comes up, I'm always thinking it's how's this going to help people. But I always appreciate the vulnerability that it takes to do these. And right off the bat, I'm just going to say that now because it's a very moving account that you gave there. Leads me to another important question as well, which is, that sort of phase you were going through where you're going off track a little bit. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of young people especially, going through the same thing. What would you say to those people? What would be some advice you would like to share with somebody now who is like in your shoes, the way you were then, and some advice for them, please?
One of the biggest pieces of advice is that my dad used to tell me, and it took me a long time to figure it out, is your friends are not your friends; they're your enemies. Who you think your friends are at this point in your life where you're messing up, and you know you they're not your friends. They're not going to do the time for you. They're not going to sit in a jail cell for you. Life is going to go on. If you get in trouble, everybody moves on. Whether it be girlfriends, friends, they all move on. They are not your friends. They will set you up and they will watch you crash and burn, and for nothing. It'll all be for nothing at the end of the day. So I think that's a big realization that younger people need to understand. And I get that, being younger, you're wanting to be a part of something. You're wanting to be wanted, you know. Um, and I understand that aspect, but running around in the streets and thinking you're hard and thinking you're the baddest out there, it ain't the answer, because there's always someone bigger and badder. And by that, sometimes that person is fights at 160 pounds and is half your size, can be bigger and badder than you.
Absolutely. That's some solid advice, and something that the youth of today they really need to hear that. I mean, they did in your day, but they still do now. So it's really really good advice. So, okay, so that's the sporting aspect, the mindset, the getting on the straight and narrow and everything. But then when it comes to the military aspect and everything, I'd like to hear a little bit about that as well because I got a feeling there's some really inspirational stories here. And can you walk us through a little bit about your service? What age you went in, and some of the highlights of your service, that kind of thing, please, Fabian. Thank you.
Yeah. So in 2008, I had just graduated high school. I was really looking to just get out of my hometown. I'm from a small town in Nebraska, Scottsbluff, the whole area. in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Is about 30,000 people. Very, very small. Um, but it is also a town that if you don't leave, it'll swallow you up and spit you out, and then swallow you back up again. Um, I wanted to get out of town. I wanted to leave, and I didn't know which direction to go. Ended up joining the Army. Um, I just said needs of the Army. I didn't care. I just wanted to get out, and ended up at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I was hearing. I joined as a 13 Fox, a fire support specialist. Completely oblivious to what it actually was. Didn't even do my homework into what it was. I just went with what the recruiter told me, and I thought it was firefighter. And then I got to Fort Sill and I see home of the field artillery, and I'm like, ain't nothing firefighter about this. so, but it was actually a job that I actually really, really loved. I really enjoyed. I went to basic and advanced individual training there. Um, through basic training, I met one of my best friends, my boy Ika Rosanes, we'll call him Rosie. Um, Met him, and me and him clicked it off together, and we ended up getting stationed in the same unit together at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I ended up with the 101st Airborne Division. Once again, completely oblivious and ignorant to what a prestigious unit that the 101st is. Had no idea. Um, I used to have a really ignorant mindset about the military in high school. I used to have the mindset of why would I go fight for a country that already has a strike against me because of my skin color? It's a completely ignorant way to go about life and to think when that's not the case. It's not the case at all. Um, and so I had no idea who the 101st was. I mean, I heard of Band of Brothers, but I didn't know that that's what the 101st was. I didn't know that, Screaming Eagles, had no idea. But Band of Brothers was out by the time I joined. And so once I got to the unit, I started to train, and I've had several key leaders um, that helped mold me. Um, Sergeant Thompson, Sergeant Cornwell, Sergeant Hale, um, and probably the most influential person in my life at that time was Staff Sergeant Wisely. He's now Command Sergeant Major Wisely, but when he took over Bravo team, he took over Bravo Company. I was a young private. God, I fucking hated him. I hated him. I wanted to fight him so bad. I felt like he was um, just after me and only after me. But once again, it was once we finally got to Afghanistan in 2010. It's kind of like I find those similarities with my dad. Like my dad was so hard on me, and it took a long time for everything to finally click. Wisely was hard on me, and when we got to Afghanistan, it all made sense. Everything he was telling me, and it clicked that there was a rhyme and a reason. There was a method to the madness. But oh man, I hated him. I hated him with the passion. I couldn't stand him.
Wow, that's an important lesson in itself. I mean, the way that as time moves forward, kind of thing, the roles that people play in our lives change, and it in a funny kind of way, it's a different perspective on what you were saying earlier about your friends and your enemies and everything, and your friends. It's a different kind of thing that you hated him, and then you come to admire him and how he helped you. I mean, it's fascinating that aspect. Okay, so Afghanistan itself. Now, I'm not sure how easy this is for you to talk about it and everything like that, but talking about your service, actually being there, obviously people who have served will understand this, but we also kind of have to accommodate people who haven't as well. So I'm going to frame this from a different point of view, which is the biggest misconceptions people have in the general public about Afghanistan versus the experience of actually being there, if that makes sense. Because I mean, I have a lot of friends. Um, who served, and that's from the British side and the US side, by the way. And so, you hear a lot of the stories firsthand, but there's definitely a difference with the media aspect versus being on the ground. And the feeling I'm getting here, is to kind of move a little bit in that direction. I mean, the things that people may not know at face value from your experiences, maybe things people haven't heard before. Is there anything like that that comes to mind that you'd like to share or you wouldn't mind sharing?
Yeah, for sure we were there for the people, for the locals. Um, for I don't think people realize like much um, how much the local people were extorted and terrorized by the Taliban, and we were there for the people. Um, you know, the media likes to portray war as this bad thing, right? And don't get me wrong, fighting is a bad thing, um, but it's a necessary thing. It's one of the best quotes uh, is I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, and a lot of people don't understand that. Um, but we were over there for the people, and unfortunately, things happen in war, right? And mistakes happen, things do happen, but that's not the whole picture of what the war is. The media likes to put a spotlight on the very minimal percentage of bad things that do happen, and they make it seem like that's the whole war, and that's not what it was. That's not what the mission was. That's not what we were there for. We had far more success reaching the locals and creating relationships with them than the media loves to portray. But you know, the media controls the minds, and if you're dumb enough to believe the media, then I'm sorry, that's on you.
Hey, that's a great message. I like that last part of it. I mean, this is also, by the way, part of why I love this format. Like we can speak to people like this and get real stories out there, not the not the mass hypnosis and that's another side of things. But that's another story for another time. Okay, so out of your service, what would you say is your proudest moment personally, professionally, or the connection between the two in terms of what I mean by that is it can be an actual moment in the war, but it can also be, something that you learned or something you developed within yourself. I mean, it takes different forms. But when we look at the proudest moment, it's a weird thing to say that about a war, but there's also a lot, like with the bravery and the courage that you have to be proud of. And I wonder what stands out to you when you look back on it now in that sense, please.
For me, it's not even about me. It's the proudest thing about my military service is the guys I was with. Um, like the amount of respect and admiration you have to have for another man to lay your life down for him next to him, right? And you guys come from different worlds, you know. Um, but my admiration and my love for the guys that I was with is unparamount. Like it's to me that's the proudest thing. I'm proud that I served with those guys. I'm proud that I was able to be with them um, and share those moments with them. And I'm proud to have been with the guys that passed away that didn't come back. Um, I think even in the midst of at that time not getting along with some of these guys, I'll speak on one guy. I laugh at it now, but um, Deans, we were never cool. I was never cool with Corporal Patrick Deans, um, but he was somebody that whatever emotion he was feeling at that time is like he did not hide his emotions. Like he wore his heart on his sleeve. What you see is what you get with Deans. Um, me and him, we never really got along. Right? It's not like we hate each other, right? But I remember maybe 3 days before I got blown up the last time, I had to wake him up for fire guard, and he was mad that I woke him up um, 7 minutes before his fire guard watch started, and not 5 minutes. So he was mad over that 2 minutes of sleep. Really, really pissed off. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, whatever. Get the fuck up and get outside, right? He came outside and he got in my face and over 2 minutes of sleep. Over 2 minutes of sleep. And we were gonna fight right there in the tent. Out there in Afghan outside the tent, just me and him outside. Over 2 minutes of sleep. And um he was so like he was in my face, and I'm like, well, finally I was like, fine, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do, Deans? What do you want to do? And he was like, fuck you, you know, after you fucking piece of shit. And I was just like, he walked off on me, and he's the type of guy that he apologized in his own way, right? Maybe 2 days later, the day before I got blown up, we took over this mud compound, and it was like we were trying to set up for the night and just try to, have a little break before the next day. And I'm sitting down by the truck on the floor, and he walks by me, and then 5 minutes later walks by again and just threw a rip it. A rip it was our energy drinks that we had there, but he threw a rip it at my chest, and he just stared at me and then walked off. But it dawned on me later on, like I was like, who does motherfucker think he is, right? It dawned on me later on that that was his way of saying sorry. Took him 2 days, right, to flip out over 2 minutes of sleep, but that was his way of, you know, my bad. He was still mad. He was, he was still angry, you know. Just, at that point in time, he was an angry little dude. Um, but I found out later on that after everything, um, he passed away in December from a VBED, a vehicle-borne IED that hit the mud hut and it crushed, and 6 guys died that day. He was one of them. Um, but like I said, I'm talking about Deans, but I want to say, like, just like, hey, like this dude Deans is just an angry little dude. No, that dude, like, if you really think about how he ended up on that deployment again, he was supposed to get out. He went to Iraq. He was supposed to get out, and I found out after the fact that he had um, re-enlisted to go to Afghanistan, so McClawhorn didn't have to go by himself. Him and McClawhorn were best friends. McClawhorn was still staying in and going to Afghanistan. Deans was like, no, that's my boy. Like, I want to get out, but I'm not going to let McClawhorn go to Afghanistan without me. So he re-enlisted to go to Afghanistan with McClawhorn because they were that tight. Like that amount of love and camaraderie right there is respectable, right? And even though me and Deans didn't get along, right? Like, I don't know, like I said, we weren't enemies. We didn't hate each other, but we didn't get along, right? I guess our personalities just didn't gel. Um, his way of apologizing to me let me know that he was a man about himself, right? And if he knew that he was wrong, he was gonna apologize. He apologized in his own way by throwing a rip it at my chest. That's his own way of saying I'm sorry, but knowing that he didn't have to be there. His time was done. He had already been to Iraq. He didn't have to go to Afghanistan, but he went because of McClawhorn. And that should tell you everything on who that man is, right? Like the amount of love and sacrifice that he was willing to do. And then inevitably, him and McClawhorn died together in December. Best friends. Like, you talk about riding it till the wheels fall off, riding it till the end. Like, it's things like that make me so proud to have served with men like that are willing to go to that lengths for each other. And that's probably like my most proudest thing about the military is the men I served with.
Absolutely. Well, that's a very, very powerful story and very moving again, and I've got to say that it's a real honor here to sort of play a very small part in honoring their memory as well with this conversation, and sharing that story maybe to people who haven't heard it. So I appreciate you sharing that very much, and the pride of that makes a lot of sense, absolute lot of sense. You mentioned as well, though, I mean, obviously, the way it ended for them. I mean, with yourself personally, you mentioned being blown up there, and some of these sort of crazy experiences that you had over there. Now, I'm a little bit wary of this only because I'm well aware that these things are not always super easy to speak on. I mean, it depends on the situation, it depends on the person. So I don't necessarily want to bring up anything that's going to be sort of troublesome for you later on. But at the same time, you mentioned that story, so I'm assuming that's reasonably comfortable to touch on. That day you were blown up, do you mind sharing what happened in that situation? Is that something you feel comfortable to speak on, and if not, that's okay.
Yeah, we can speak on it. So that day was the official kickoff to Operation Dragon Strike, which is probably like the last big major operation in Afghanistan that had happened. I honestly did not really know until I knew it was big, but then I was literally last week just looking up Operation Dragon Strike all over the internet, and how many like there's documentaries now on it and stuff going on, and I'm like, oh shit, this is big, right? This was huge. I didn't know it was as big as it was. It was the U.S., the British, and Afghan military police, or Afghan National Army, and a joint coalition to push out the Taliban. And so September 15th is when it officially started, but for us, we were on the ground. That shit started 2, 3 months before that. All the little things that we had to do to gear up for it and get ready for it and prepare for it, right? um, but that day, um, it was me, First Sergeant Fitzke, and my boy, Corporal Velasquez. He passed away in December as well in the same V bed with Deans and McLaughlin, Collins, Nick O'Shea, and Simonetta. Those are 6 guys that passed away in December from the V bed. Velasquez was one of them, and so that day, me and Velasquez, we were rotating from driver and the 240 Bravo in the turret in the vehicle, because we had 2 additionals with us in the vehicle, but they were ANAs. And I'm sorry, they didn't know how to drive our vehicles, and we weren't too confident in their skills with the turret. So First Sergeant Fitzke was the TC in the passenger seat, and then me and Velasquez were constantly rotating. And that day it was kicking off. We were doing Overwatch, and Charlie Company was moving down into the ravine and clearing everything out. And it was just it was cracking. It was a big firefight that whole day. That on day one they were pushing. It was going hard. And Charlie Company took a couple. They took a couple casualties. I can't remember if nobody died that day. Nobody passed away, fortunately, but they took a couple casualties. So probably about sometime in the afternoon, we had to go down and help do a medevac and get some of the guys out. And we took them out, and we were taking them to another area where they had established as like a small patrol base for us to link up at and be able to get people out. And after that, I had been in the gunner's hatch now at this point for like 4 hours. Me and Velasquez kind of like had a deal where, we're going to do 4 hours, right? Just to keep it rotating and keep ourselves awake and not. And I already been there for 4 hours. We got done. And I drank like two rippets. And so I was just wired. And Velasquez was like, "You ready to switch?" And I was like, "No, I'm good, bro. I'm good." Like, um, I'll do another 4 hours. It's all good. You can keep driving. Um, we go back to make sure that everything's clear. I remember as we were going down there, we were watching this white Toyota van keep driving by. And when we were coming out of the ravine is when we saw the van again. And it was filled with a bunch of guys in there. Can't do nothing with the vehicle because they were technically not doing anything, right? They're just driving by. Um, but we believe it to be a remote controlled device because it only makes sense. But I remember we were coming out the ravine. First sergeant was, telling me to look back and make sure that the next truck was closely behind us. Turn around, I look, yeah, they're there. Boom. And as fast as it happened, in real speed, it was still so slow. I still remember just ever so slowly. Um, I thought I broke my back because I just felt like I couldn't move my back, and then I couldn't breathe. I had so much dirt in my mouth, trying to clear everything out. And when I tried to stand up is when I fell back down, and that's when I realized my right femur had been broken. I remember like my knee being like right here. It was like, oh, it's not supposed to be there. But the adrenaline was going. Um, First Sergeant Fiske was able to um, control everybody and secure a perimeter, and still calling the medevac at the same time in the midst of all this. And yeah, they medevac me, First Sergeant Fiske and Velasquez, and we all went to Top Terminator, and that's where I ended up being flown out of. But yeah, that was my last day there. I think I had spent like we were in the truck together, me and Velasquez and Fiske, for like 5 days leading up to that, all day. Um, that's when I got to know Velasquez a lot more. Me and Velasquez had always been cool. He was from Miami. We had always been cool, but those last 5 days is when I really got to know Velasquez as a man. And I guess it plays a different part later on because I was already back at Fort Campbell. He came home on block leave in mid to late November, and I remember seeing him. I remember seeing him at the PX with his wife and kids, and we talked for a little bit. And I remember him telling me that he was afraid of going back. He was afraid to go back. That he had a bad feeling, and um, I didn't think much of it. Right? I can understand having the anxiety of like you're finally stateside, now you got to go back. Um, but within 2 weeks of that day, he passed away from that vehicle-borne IED, and he was crushed to death. And I always think about the what if we would have switched when we were supposed to. If we would have switched when we were supposed to, and we still hit that same IED, he would have been home with his family instead of me. Because I wasn't even part of Second Platoon. I was only covering down because Second Platoon's FO, my boy Davis, got hurt from they got hit with an RPG a couple weeks earlier. So Davis was going to eventually come back to Second Platoon, and I would have eventually gone back to my original platoon, Third Platoon. So I wasn't even part of Second Platoon, right? Which means I wouldn't even been a part of that whole ordeal with the VBED later on in December, right? And I understand, people, everybody always tells me you can't think of the coulda, woulda, shoulda. Things happen the way they happen for a reason. But in my mind, if we would have switched, Velasquez would have been hurt. Velasquez would have been home with his family. We would still have Velasquez today. And honestly, like the way Velasquez talked about his wife and his kids, he was the epitome of a great husband and a great father. And sometimes I just feel like because of my split decision making, sometimes I feel like I took that away from his family. And that's something that always, it'll never stop eating away at me. No matter, I feel like no matter how much therapy, no matter what, how much time passes, I just feel like my split decision making, you know, could have, changed everything.
Yeah, but you couldn't have known at the time anything like that. I mean, you're making the best decisions moment by moment with the information you had available. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that before, but I mean, we can't see into the future in this sense. But I mean, survivor's guilt. I don't like labels, but that kind of thing. Um, nah, I mean, I'm going to say it's not your fault in the way you think it is, but then again, I'm sure a lot of people have told you that, and I know that it's an internal thing. I'm hearing this story for the first time. I mean, it certainly doesn't sound like it because with war, the terrible thing is that somebody is not coming home to their family, and it's just like the Russian roulette thing, of which time it's going to click, which one it's going to be, But man, I appreciate you sharing that because I knew it wasn't going to be an easy story to tell, and that's the reason why. You mentioned the therapy. I think this is something important for people out there to hear as well, in the sense that you know, you're a strong, confident, honorable guy. You're obviously tough. As we've spoken about, mentally, physically. All these kinds of things. But you've still been through that process, and I think there's a big sort of barrier that's been breaking down in recent years of people, or men in particular, speaking on their feelings. I mean, I know that's a bit cliche, but it is true that there's been definitely like a destigmatization of that process. But with this, I don't want to get into anything too personal here, but in other words, through the process of therapy, I would like to touch briefly on the ways that it has helped you so that we can illustrate how it can help others. And again, like I asked you at the beginning, if there's any advice for people going through rough times, whether it's with the military or whether it's in day-to-day life, but people who are fighting their demons inside, up here. It's often the toughest fights we'll ever have. And I've been there as well, by the way. I would like to mention, like any advice you have for people who are struggling in that sense and what they can do, if that's okay. Thank you.
So when it comes to therapy, right, I think it's a sad reality, but everybody has to hit their rock bottom before they have to make a change. And unfortunately, each individual is in control of what they deem as their rock bottom. You know, they could be lying to themselves and say that uh, they're at rock bottom and realize that rock bottom has a basement. um, it's up to the individual. Uh, I want to say my rock bottom was I got in a DUI, totaled my freaking truck that I just paid off. Literally paid it off like a week before. I totaled my truck, and I went through Veterans Court. Everything was court ordered. All my therapy was court ordered. I had to get sober, and I remember being 6 months sober, and I had pissed the judge off to where the judge threw me in jail for 10 days, even through Veterans Court. So I did 5 weekends in a row of jail time. So went to work 5 days, my 2 days, go to jail. And I remember sitting in jail telling myself, like, everybody always says, oh, if you get sober, everything's going to get better. And I remember sitting there like, I'm 6 months sober and ain't shit changed. Now I'm sitting in jail, like when is it going to get better for me? And I feel like sitting in that jail cell was my wake up call to do things, because I had to make the realization, like, I've been doing AA, I've been doing group therapy, I've been doing one on one therapy, and then I had to really think about it. And I was like, have I, or have I been sitting in the back of AA on my phone? Was I in group therapy with myself on mute, the phone on speaker, so they couldn't hear me, but I could hear them, and I'm playing Xbox during these group therapy sessions, during my one-on-one therapy sessions, right? Like, was I real? I was there for the meetings. I was there for everything, but was I actually doing the work? And I remember I told myself, I was still feeling very suicidal at that point as well too. Um, I had written out a 6 month plan that on June 12th of 2023, that was going to be my 1 year sobriety date. That if I still felt the same way, that I was going to go with my plan and just kill myself. Right. But I knew it was okay. I'm gonna push through therapy. I'm gonna actually do therapy. I'm gonna interact in AA. I'm actually gonna put effort into this. And after 6 months, nothing changes, and I hit my 1 year sobriety day. Let's call it a day. It is what it is. I'm over it. Um, Finally, the day hit. I got a reminder notification on my phone. I set a calendar date on my phone to kill myself, and it hit. And I had to think about it, and I was like, I don't remember the last time I actually thought about killing myself. I couldn't think of them like in the last 6 months. I was like, when was the last time I actually thought about it? I don't know. I hadn't thought about it in so long. I completely forgot about it. I forgot about the plan. And also at that time though too, uh, my ex-wife, it kind of that's when I knew the dynamics changed in my marriage as well. My ex-wife at the time had told me on my 1 year sobriety date, I didn't get a congratulations. I didn't get I'm proud of you. I didn't get anything from her. What I got was a threat. All she told me was, so you hit 1 year? Okay. If you drink again, you'll never see me or the kids ever again. And that was another eye opener on my 1 year sobriety day. Like one, I feel like it was two good things that happened to me that day. One, I was very, very proud that I actually did the work in the last 6 months, that I had dove all in on my therapy and my AA, that I was no longer feeling suicidal. But then also the other eye opener was she wasn't in my corner. And that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, I feel like I put her through enough, enough shit, 12, 13 years of shit, that I also feel like she had every right to no longer be in my corner that way either. Right. I don't blame her for feeling the way she did. Like I said, I don't want to paint her off as this inhumane person, or this horrible person. You put someone through a decade of bullshit, you know what I mean? And they're like, oh yeah, cool, congratulations, you did 1 year. Like 1 year is nothing compared to 13 years of bullshit. So I can't, you know what I mean? I can't hold that against her either, right? She's entitled to her opinion. She's entitled to feel how she feels. One compared to 13 is not a good. The deck ain't stacked in my favor when it comes to a favorable marriage in the first marriage, you know. So, but it was an eye opener for myself, right? That I was like, okay, now I know how I need to maneuver, right? And one door closes, another one opens, and I had to look at it that way, and I had to, but it was also like understanding that like my way of doing things and drowning myself in alcohol wasn't working. It didn't work. So, but therapy helped it. Therapy made me realize that, right? And one of the biggest things I ever took from it was the Serenity Prayer, and that really helped me get through a lot of things. You know what I mean? Because I just felt like mentally I took on a lot of things for a lot of people, and I had no control over it. And you have to have some sort of um, self preserve. You have to preserve some things for yourself in order to be there for the people that need you, right? Versus the people that want you to be there for their selfish reasons. So, but unfortunately, I feel like everybody has to hit their rock bottom for that light bulb to go off. But it's up to them to determine what their rock bottom is.
Yeah. Makes sense. It makes sense. It's a very good perspective on that. I mean, it's not very good that people have to go through it, but at the same time, I understand. Also from personal experience, I understand that, but also from a lot of people I speak with, I understand that, and it's a very good perspective on them determining what their rock bottom is. Now, a couple of other subjects here, not loads of subjects now, but there's something with that as well. I mean, with the whole AA side of things, the power bigger than yourself concept is in there as far as I understand it, subject to what people determine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen on your profile about like verses, and you mentioned about the Serenity Prayer. With everything that you've survived to still be here today, even though I do fully respect the mixed feelings with that, by the way, and I'm take that into account with this. But even like surviving the suicide, you're not killing yourself now. I mean, you're a champion. You're what getting well known as a fighter. You're in a happy relationship. I've seen that on your feed. I mean, you're doing great things. From where you were to now, do you believe that there's any spiritual aspect to that? Is that something that you ever consider that you're kind of a person who's like outside the odds, you're like above the averages, like the things you've made it through. I mean, the story I'm hearing today, people might have made it through one of those things, but you've made it through multiple of these situations, if that makes sense. I don't just mean the war, I mean the recovery, I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. What are your thoughts on that? If I know it's an abstract question, but I'm just curious, to be honest. Thank you.
My spiritual side, I read. I do have the Bible app, and I read the Bible every day. Um, I love that they'll pick one or two verses for the message of the day, and they break it down. It ends up being like a 15 to 20 minute study over the verse of the day. And I love that because it's able to break things down. So every day I'm reading the Bible, right? I read the Bible every day. I pray every day. Um, I don't go to church every week, right? I did do about a year of school in theology, and that kind of helped a lot of things. But um, the reason I kind of stopped going to church every week on a weekly basis, right, was because I found God more in the AA room than I ever did in the church. God is more present in an AA meeting than he ever is in a church. And that's nothing to say about the pastor, the church, or the message. It's about the people. But then again, though, I have to remind myself, when you go to a hospital, do you find 100% healthy people? So if you go to church, are you expecting to find 100% faithful people?
Right, I see. I see. Yeah.
So, and there's times though, like I just, I'm remarried again, and I was telling my wife yesterday, like, um, every once in a while, I get that urge, like I feel like I have to go to church, right? I don't go every week. I'm not active like that in the church, but I was telling her, and she was like, something's just been something's been pushing me, like, these last couple weeks, like, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go. And then finally I told her, say, no, we gotta go to church tomorrow. Like, and I'm sure that when I walk into church here in a couple hours, in about 2 hours, whatever I've been feeling for this last month, couple weeks, it's gonna hit. I feel like that's how it is every time you walk in, and you feel like the pastor's straight staring at you as he's talking about things. Like, oh, how'd you know? That's how it always is. And but something's just been telling me to go back. So I told her yesterday, like, look, we got to go to church in the morning.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and I relate with that. By the way, I'm not going to go off topic here, but the experiences I've had, and it makes a lot of sense. It's also a valuable message. Also on the subject of your success as well. Winning the title, I mean, because I know we spoke about the fighting at the beginning, and we've kind of touched on it, but obviously the decision to come back and do fighting is one aspect. But winning a title, and you're starting to have some good successes now as a fighter and as an athlete and everything. How does that feel, with everything that you've been through to sort of get to this point, starting having some successes? And I'm sure the reasons you do it are very multifaceted and everything. But, I mean, that's the question. You're having some successes in the combat sports world, as we spoke about at the beginning. How do you feel about that at this stage of your life, please, Fabian?
Um, so the reality is I wasted all my prime years, right? I'm 35. I drank and partied all of my prime years in this sport. And I know that. And I was just like, okay, well, I'll probably never stop fighting until I'm like 50, right? So at this point, it's whatever. Let's just have some fun now. I kind of took that stress off of myself of the reality is I'm probably not going to be in the UFC, right? That was always my goal to begin with. Time is not on my side, right? My body's not on my side anymore. It's my fault. It's something I have to live with, right? But I was like, oh, let's just have some fun. And then Vern had posted, like I said, I've known Vern since about 2008, right? That's when I first met Vern back in the day. He had already retired for the first time back then. So that's how long Vern's been in the sport. And we've been friends on social media for quite some time, or for years now, right? And seen the post, where are my Army vets, Army heavyweight vets? And I was just like, and I had just had my pro MMA debut against another guy who had been in the sport, another guy I respect for a long time, Jose Beltran. I made my pro debut, and it was his retirement fight. And I specifically asked for that fight because um, he's somebody that I've respected and had a lot of admiration for. And I feel like he doesn't get the fair share of recognition because in the Wyoming and Nebraska region, Jose was a big part of that. And I feel like he never got that recognition. He never got that one last time. And I had reached out to Jose, like, hey, man, do you got one more in you? Do you want to? You know what I mean? My pro debut, your retirement fight, I would love for that to happen. And so I had just had my pro debut back in Nebraska. And we fought, and I beat him. I got the victory over him. And Vern had made that post, and I was like, right here, Army vet, heavyweight, just turned pro. And he messaged me, and he was like, okay, it's going to be bare knuckle, and it's going to be for the heavyweight title. And I was like, oh shit, oh well. Bare knuckle had always been in my mind like a bucket list thing, just one and done. Like, I'll do it one time, cool, whatever. And then going into that fight, I remember driving there with the wife and all the kids because my wife now, we got 6 kids combined total. So I think we were taking 5 total out of the 6. One stayed back, and we were driving there, and I was telling her in the middle of the night as we were driving, like, if I lose to Vern, it's not a big deal. He's somebody that I've known for a long time. He's somebody that's well respected in the fight game. He's got a lot of fights. You know what I mean? So to kind of, I'm not going to lose. I'm not going purposely to lose. Like, I'm going to go in and win every time. But it kind of eases the sting of a loss a little bit better, knowing it's against somebody like him. So I was like, if I lose, it's not a big deal. But I'm still going in to go fight. Um, then I ended up winning and won the fight. And then the realization set in, like, oh crap, now I got to keep doing this because I wanted to do MMA. I wanted to stick with MMA. But now that I won, now I got to defend. So, and I was telling my wife too, I was like, bare knuckle was just supposed to be a one and done deal. I was like, and the fact that I'm already a professional champion at this level and defended the belt now again, I'm like, I've surpassed my own expectations of what I wanted to do and what I expected from it. And it is kind of it's a little bit nice, but at the same time, like I don't dwell on victories and losses at all. Like I look at it like there's still work to be done. Like the job's not done. When it'll be done, I have no idea. But that's the way I look at it. Like it's on to the next. Like we can't, you can't even you can't dwell on losses, and I cannot stay gloating on victories. You just got to keep going.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I agree with you there. I mean, it's that old saying of "Don't let success get to your head and don't let failure get to your heart." I think it is. And it's it's a true saying. But okay, so my last question for you today, my friend, is about your future plans because you said there, you want to keep fighting until you're like 50 or whatever. I mean, I would like to talk about where you'd like to go from here because you've achieved a lot, you've survived a lot. You're absolutely even more inspirational than I thought you'd be. By the way, I've got to say that since we're on the subject of exceeding expectations. I mean, this interview has exceeded my expectations. I knew it would be good, but it's been really powerful, and there's a lot in here that will help people, and I mean that hand on heart. But we also got to realize that you've got a lot left in the tank in life, and you're still here for a reason. And when it comes to that, like in the fighting aspect, but also in any other sort of life areas that you feel comfortable to share here. It would just be awesome to hear about like your dreams and goals and aspirations for the future, basically, please.
Okay, so right now I'm currently in school full time as well. I've been in school full time since the beginning of the year. I'm trying to finish up my degree finally. Um, I'm doing a double bachelor's degree in emergency management and security management. So, my plate is kind of full there as well too, on top of, being a dad and a husband and working. I work 412s, and uh, so I still want to finish that. I'm kind of just prepared for whatever comes next. At least I know I'll be prepared for wherever. If I stay in Vegas, move from Vegas, decide to go back home to Nebraska, or wherever the case may be, professionally in that regards, I'll be well rounded and prepared for that for whatever job. Um, as far as fighting, what's next? I think they have November is what they're looking for my next title defense. I start physical therapy next week for my lower back. My lower back's just been killing me for about 3 months now, 4 months now. So I'll start physical therapy, and then I have to get an MRI as well too on my lower back to see what's kind of going on there because I do have two herniated discs. Like I said, was blown up in Afghanistan, and then I also got hit by a drunk driver a couple years ago, and that's when I found the herniated lower disc. But now I think something just ain't right now with my lower back. So I at least want to get that looked at before I decide to take another fight and move forward. But I think potentially the next date might be November if everything checks out with my back. And that'll be another title defense. That'll be defend the belt again. But I definitely want to get some more MMA fights in between. But like I said, it's just a matter of being physically ready before I take it off. Like I said, this last fight, I probably should have never fought it. I should have never took that fight. Oh, at best, I should have never went through with it. I signed the contract, and then my back started messing up, and I just had a horrible camp. I think I got in the gym maybe 4 times in that time frame. I was just in so much pain. Um, but I'm the type of person if I sign the contract or I tell you I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. It doesn't matter what condition I'm in. I'm going to pull up. If I gave you my word, I gave you my word, and no matter what condition I'm going to be in, I'm going to be there and I'm going to fight. So that's how I've always carried myself. I feel like there's no excuses. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, everybody comes into every fight injured. right? So I feel like pulling out because of injuries, it has to be a severe injury for you to pull out, in my opinion. For me, even with my back, I was still going to be there.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's testament to the mindset that we've been speaking on today from multiple different points of view. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. It sounds like the future is very bright for you, obviously with the studying, the professional side of things, and with the combat side of things as well. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. But absolutely, I'm going to be cheering for you. But you know what? Like I was saying just now before I asked that question, the way that this interview has gone and sort of exceeded the expectations, I knew it would be good. I've got a good instinct for inspirational people and people with good stories to tell. But nonetheless, hand on heart, do mean what I said, that this has really exceeded that, and very, very powerful. It's been moving, it's been funny, it's been inspirational, it's been lots of different things at different times. And to think as well that all this time you've been sat there with your back, in that position, and you seem like happy as anything, but you're probably in a lot of pain there. So I mean that combined with like the time in the morning and everything, I just appreciate this. And like I said at the beginning, it's an honor to help you tell your story, and as well as inspiring others. Hope that this has helped you get a few things off your chest. I hope that it's helped you maybe put the record straight on a few things, inspire some other people, and just put a few more eyes on what you're doing as well as an athlete. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects, but basically everybody wins. So I just want to say I appreciate you, my friend. I mean, I appreciate you being an open book and just being a lot of fun to talk with, and it's as simple as that. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate it too. Um, I would say like just wanted to add on a little thing, and it just made me think about it though too. Was
Please.
some people always ask me like, "Well, dang, dude, like you're doing all this and you're still fighting, and or why are you still fighting if you're in pain, blah blah blah." And I have to think about it like my thought process always goes to like my kids, right? And I'm like, well, what kind of example am I setting for them if I quit? You know what I mean? I have to lead by example. I have to show them. But then it also goes back to my dad. I see I see how much pain my dad is in even now at his age, and he's still pushing forward, right? He's still a roofer, and he's almost 60, and he's still up on the roof out there every summer roofing, doing everything. He's a contractor, and um, I look at him and I look back at my childhood, and I just look at everything that he sacrificed for us, right? Like, and I look, like I said, everything goes back to him. Everything goes back to my dad. Everything that I do is a reflection of how he showed me and how to be and how to conduct yourself as a man and to lead by example. Right? It doesn't matter how full your plate is, you keep going and you don't show any signs of weakness. And he never did. I've yet to ever see my stepdad even cry. Like he'd never shed one tear, right? And so like I look at that and I see that and it's like, okay, that's how I need to be and that's how I need to conduct myself. Um, and like I said, it goes back to like how I talked about Staff Sergeant Wisely earlier. That whole deployment in 2010 and 11, he had a broken neck. He had a broken neck leading up to that deployment, and it's just like you would have never known. I never knew, right? He was out there running and gunning and doing everything as well too with a broken neck. So it's like you have to lead by example. There's no excuses, right? And it's like those are like my two biggest influences as far as like having a work ethic and pushing forward. So definitely lead by example. Don't talk about it, be about it.
Absolutely. Hey, I love that. Yeah, that is you in a nutshell. Lead by example. That is exactly what you do. And I think that everything I've been saying here with the inspiration and everything actually is summed up in that statement, 110%. So that's a really, really nice way to close out. Don't talk about it, be about it. I mean, yeah, that's and lead by example. That's you in a nutshell, my friend, 100%. So absolutely awesome. Well, What I'm going to say is, I am going to say, I hope you have a great day ahead because you know you've got your whole day. I mean, I'm going to the end of my day now, but you've got your whole day going. I'm going to say that, and I'm also going to say, you know, God bless to you and to your family and all your loved ones, your dad, everybody. I mean, you know, absolutely wonderful people. And I'm just going to say slightly personal, but the way you speak about your dad, the compassion, the love that's, you know, in your face there, it's a beautiful thing. I've seen the posts like with your family and your wife and everything like that. You're a beautiful family, and I'm just going to say God bless all of you. I wish you guys all the best. And I'll send you this as well, by the way, just for us. When I release this, I'll send this to you as well, so we can, between the two of us, we can share it everywhere, get your story out there, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for you, my friend.
For sure, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.